Brennan, 10 years ago, you guys launched Raiz. Do you think it would be where it is today?
That's a good question, mate. I think yes and no. I know it's a sitting on the fence kind of answer, but 10 years ago or 11 years ago when we set it out, and we've been operating for 10 years. I wanted Raiz to be a household brand. Back in the day, it was an AMP or is it a Colonial First State? I wanted to be a household brand. And when we look back and reflect on the numbers for the last 10 years, we've saved and invested over $5 billion for everyday Australians. We've reinvested $230 million worth of dividends. And the important part about that is the impact. A lot of the Australians over that period would be the first ever time they've received dividend outside of something like their superannuation. So the impact that we've made is, I'm very happy where we are, but there is still more to go.
Yeah. I figured you already know.
Got a couple in my head, yeah.
Okay. So what was the original mission of Raiz? Talk about impact, but what was the original mission of Raiz?
The plan was to solve a problem. It's like any fintech, any business that you do, you've got to be able to, you create a business to solve a problem. And that problem that we tried to solve was breaking down the barriers to saving and investing. People back in the day when I remember my first shares when I was about 16 or 17 through the old E-Trade platform, and it was a minimum investment of $1,000. And that's a barrier for people to get into. So we broke down the barriers to allow everybody to get into the stock market, to get hands-on or palm in the palm experience in the palm of their hands on the stock market.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then the second one, the two core principles we built the business on is solving that problem, breaking down the barriers, and small amounts consistently add up over time. And we've got over $2.1 billion of funds under management now.
Yeah.
So that's a big number.
2.1
billion.
Yeah.
B for friendly.
Yeah.
And the second one was leveraging technology to make everybody's life easier. We had a conversation before this about how hectic schedules are and things like that. But if you had to log in every time to deposit $5 or $10, you wouldn't find the time. And people will always say, "I'll come back and do it." 70% of people don't come back and do it. So by leveraging technology to make everyone's life easier, recurring deposits, do $5 a day, $5 a week, $5 a month. Yeah. Just have that set and forget mentality.
Yeah. I think if I were to go back in time to when it first launched, so that explosion of the iPhone as well would have been a huge uptick for you guys.
Absolutely. Yeah, digital is in the palm of the hand. And we are, we pride ourselves on being a mobile first application because everyone's life's on their phones these days.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, fair enough. So originally though it wasn't called Raiz. I remember my first sign up, it was called Acorns.
Yeah.
What's the story behind it? So
in March 2015, we signed a joint venture agreement to bring Acorns Grow from Newport Beach, California out to Australia. So that's when we incorporated the company, etc. And that was March 2015, and we launched in February 16. So February last month was our 10-year anniversary. And then the sort of businesses sort of diverted in separate ways from what they wanted to do and what we wanted to do and where we were going. So in the January of 18, we raised some money, bought them out of the JV, etc. Changed the name in the April of 18, and then listed on the ASX under the name Raiz Invest Limited in the June of 2018.
Yeah. What were the reasons for IPOing?
Good question. And it's funny enough, mate, I've had a lot of people say, "Would you do it again?"
Yeah, right.
10 years break, an extra weight here or there. There's a few reasons. And probably one of the biggest one was we raised $15 million to super boost our war chest to bring better, quicker, faster, innovative products. But also, we used that money to go offshore. Yeah. We know what happens up in Asia with technology, and we wanted to get in there first, because if we don't, they'll copy it and own it. So we raised some money. Our first country, we've stopped all those operations now because we've brought the attention back to focus on the Australian business, but we launched in Indonesia.
Yeah, I remember it was in Indonesia.
And you think about what Raiz's business model is. It's a scale game. We want the number of users. We're not a typical funds under management or an asset management business where we get performance fees on the funds and things like that. Yeah. It is a set. Back in the day, we launched at $1.25 a month. There's a product now, our light plan, that is $2.50 per month. So it's all about the number of people on it.
Right.
So when you're going into somewhere like Indonesia, that's got a population of 279, 280 million people, there's only a fraction of the customers that you need compared to a $25-26 million Australian population. So we did Indonesia, we did Malaysia, we had licenses setting up in Thailand and Vietnam as well. Through COVID and etc. and that, things got a bit tough. Cash got a bit tight, so we, as a board, because we're ASX listed, we have an independent board. We came together and made the decision to close down all the Southeast Asia operations and focus on the Australian business.
Okay. What were the reasons behind that, though?
It just it was more of they were burning cash, so we didn't want to burn all the cash there, which would suffer the Australian business, and the Australian business was going well. Because we have $14 million of cash on the balance sheet at the moment, but we have to ring fence $5 million of that for regulatory reasons here in Australia.
Right.
So we just didn't want to get too skinny. And
I see. So was it just the adoption of people in the market in Indonesia for?
It was a combination of different things. I think one of them was the banking system in Indonesia. We came out of Acorns US, their banking system versus the Australian banking system. It was very easy to get in and get that organised from how operationally the app works. But in Indonesia, there's different banks, there's different banking backbones, there's e-wallets and things like that. It was very hard to get that adoption taken up. And even something like the crypto came out around the same time, and everybody was on the hype of that. So the Indonesian market doesn't have an ETF or a stock exchange like we have here. So we're going into mutual funds over there, but the young Indonesians were more excited about the crypto volatility and the instant gratification or the return that can bring versus a mutual fund. So it was a combination of different things.
Okay, fair enough. The thing I loved about it from the start, so I've been pretty, I went through a journey. I think it came out in my early 30s, and then I had it when it was Acorns, and then it migrated to Raiz, so pretty early adopter for the platform. But the way I kind of, it's kind of like an entry, like a gateway drug to financial investing, right?
Absolutely.
And it was like the first time was like gamifying it, and cool colors and the visual representation as well. And that's what I actually did a post about, like it linking it. And it's literally one of the apps, financial, like one of the you guys, Australian tech company, that's actually just changed my life in terms of giving me that exposure to it.
Yeah. Well, look at that, and as I said, that's great to hear, and I thank you. And I remember talking to you back in the 16, 17 years ago, a lot more grey.
Yeah, I know, you're a bit slimmer back then.
It's because we just had our 10th birthday last month, and we did a little 10th birthday post on LinkedIn and sent it out to our weekly newsletter. To see the impact that it has had, and there's something like Raiz Central. It's a group on Facebook these days, and I get on there every day and I listen, I read, and I watch what people are commenting on. And somebody saved up for their first house, or someone saved up to pay off their house. Someone to see the impact that it has made. Because I speak to people all the time, and I was at the beach the other day and I had my Raiz hat on, and the lady said, "Oh, what's that?" And I explained to her. She goes, "Oh, it sounds good. I'll check it out later." I'm like, "No, you won't. Get it. You've got to give it a go." As the Buffets and the Mungers say, the best time to start investing was yesterday. The next best time is today.
Well, 20 years ago,
It's kind of like you've got to give it a go. And what we've done to democratise, that's a big word, democratise saving and investing is for as little as $5. And the typical customer, I say it's a typical customer, but we see customers deposit $10. And obviously on the ASX, it takes 2 days for the shares to settle, etc. When it settles, they withdraw $10. And they get it back, and they go, "Cool, it does what it says on the tin." And that's what both particularly the customer support team, but the team as a whole with Raiz is we do what we say we will do. It's ethical issue for all of us to say, if I say I'm going to do something, we'll do it. So yes, deposit $10. Yes, you withdraw $10, and then they will deposit the lump sum of 50 or 100, and then set up the recurring side. So from a customer point of view, do what you say you can do, and I'll stick by it.
Okay. How has Raiz evolved from its original product to where it is today?
Well, that's a good question. It's so when we first launched, the principle's always been the same. It is democratizing, getting that automated, using technology to make people's life easier, with the financial education and experience. But when we first, I think the biggest change since we launched was we always had a vision. We always had a North Star that we wanted to take the product through. And I see Raiz as a cradle to grave exercise. I want people to be in the Raiz Kids, and there's no reason why they can't have one of our product offerings when they die in the grave. So it's a full lifestyle journey, and the way I've mapped it out is in an Excel spreadsheet. I've got the ages across the top, and I've got what financial products does an individual need down the left hand side of the rows, and you can sort of Gantt chart, grey it out, and go, yeah, okay, cool. They need a bank account. They might need a credit card at this age. They obviously got a superannuation product from sort of 16 or whenever they get their first job, right the way through to retirement. So we built the product on that. So we started with 5 portfolios. 6 months afterwards, our customers said, "Hey, and this is the cohort that are in there. We want to invest in what we believe in. We need a socially responsible portfolio." So we built the Emerald portfolio. So now we offered 6 portfolios. Then they've said to us, "Well, what's this thing called crypto?" And one of my core principles is I never invest in something I don't understand. I don't know either. So we did some work and spoke to the regulator and got a 5% allocation to Bitcoin, so people could understand it. And so they're asking us, what is this thing called crypto? Can you give us can you give us an exposure to it so we can understand it? Then the same thing with the property market. We created the Raiz Property Fund, where we now own 13 residential properties because young people can't get on the property ladder, but they've got exposure to that asset class now through Raiz. And so we built the products up as we're going. As an individual learns more, wants more, experiences more. In the January of, I think it was January 23, we had some customers roll out their retail their money. One was 32, one was 36, one was about 42. So I rang him and said, "Hey, Sam, why'd you roll out your 32 grand?" He goes, "Oh, I'm going across to and it was a ComSec or an IB or one of the broking houses because you've told me what to do with the training wheels on that. Thank you, but I'm going to go do it myself now." It's a bit like they think they could time the market, not time the market, etc. We laugh at that when we see that in all people's comments, but it is. Why are they going off there? Like we've had them, we've nurtured them. How can we build it? So that was January 23. On the 1st of August 23, we released what we call our Plus portfolio. So it's got the ASX 100 listed stocks in there. It's got 58 ETFs. It's got Bitcoin to a maximum of 5%, and it's got our property fund maximum of 30% of your holdings can go into that. So customers could wait and create their own portfolios.
All right.
So if we launched that product 5 years earlier or 10 years earlier, we wouldn't have had the adoption we've got because we want to take them on the journey of financial education, open up the asset classes and experience to them. And we had a chat earlier. We said, we got an email from customers the other day, and they've been with us 10 years, and they're saying, "Hey, I was just reading something, and I should have 1 or 2% of my portfolio into exposure to FX. Can you do that, Raiz?" These guys are being educated, and I was at a conference, an asset allocation conference on Tuesday, and I was talking to some guys, and I said, "Guys, what you don't realise is 10 years ago, 340,000 Australians were not investing anywhere. $340,000 customers are investing with us on a monthly basis, and that $2.2 billion that we have was sitting on the sidelines. It's now in the market. There's a massive opportunity, and as they get educated, as they get more financially confident, we want them to go into bigger and better products. So it's gone from the 5 portfolios to nine portfolios since we launched. It was just about retail money. We now have a superannuation account Raiz pays my super guarantee into that, so we offer Raiz Super. One thing that a lot of people don't realise, and the lady at the beach who's been using it for 3 years goes, "I didn't realise you had Raiz Rewards." It's a cashback offering. And just because I know the stats off the top of my head, for our 10th birthday, we've reinvested $9 million into people's accounts from our cashback offering. You're going to buy the dog food, you might as well use it through Raiz Rewards and get a cashback.
Oh, man, I think you guys are skipping a beat there because I always forget. And I'm like, I booked a holiday. Then you guys had booking on there, and I booked a holiday once through it, but then I forgot. You can do it again. It's on this. It's like it's not on there anymore. It's like, oh yeah, no, but Iconic's on there. So if you want to buy something through Iconic, you'll get 3.5% back. There's some incredible stuff. I think I'm about $300 from just the Raiz Rewards.
Mate, we're going on family holiday in July, and Expedia have a deal going on at the moment, and don't quote me, but it's about 11.3% cashback.
Oh no way!
On your flights and your accommodation. you'd get your cash back would be enough for a free night's accommodation or something like that. It's I've got the dog food on there because the dog's got to eat, and I get a 6-week delivery from Pet Circle, and I get about $12.13 reinvested every 6 weeks.
Yeah, but the thing about that is, without normal cashback offers, it goes back into spending, right?
Yeah,
you're not spending, you're investing.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want points.
Yeah,
Qantas points are great, but you can't use them, so don't offer a point system. Put cash back. So in your Raiz app, it says, like mine will say, Expedia has invested in you.
Yeah.
We had to. I nearly forgot the other day because my son's got his first school camp, so it's kind of we need sling bag.
Oh yeah.
So
ACF's on there.
Well, yeah, exactly. So I was at the store and I went, hang on, they're on Raiz. So I did my homework in the store. I went home, bought it, and I got $9.64 cash back.
Yeah,
nice. You're going to spend it, might as well.
Exactly. Might as well spend it on yourself, on your future year.
And what we're doing with that, and because people do forget, and we want it to be done in the background of life. So we're partnering with another fintech here called Further to do automated rewards.
Oh, yeah.
Because we've got transactional data for your roundup functionality. You buy a coffee downstairs at the coffee shop first. I used to say $3.50 because the coffee was worth $3.50 back 10 years ago when we started. If you bought, exactly. You buy one for $5.50. We see that transaction, we round it to $6, and we put that 50 cents in the market for you. So we've got your transactional data anyway. And what the banks can do, they reward customers on just in the background of life spending. So my wife did. We had Chemist Warehouse. And for automated rewards, and she rang me and said, "Oh, can you pick up some nappies and some other stuff on the way home?" Sure, I'll do it.
Yeah.
She rang me 2 or 3 hours later and said, "Look, I was going past the chemist. There was a parking spot, so I got in. You don't need to do it." But I received the notification on my watch. And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "I used the debit card that was linked to her Raiz account. We saw that I'll call it AI, but the machine saw the transaction and rewarded. Right. So you're getting a reward. So my ideal rewards program would be I go in at Woolworths on a Thursday.
It remembers it. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
And it goes, I buy my steak or my sausages on a Thursday night. I want cash back on that because, let me feel there. I go next door to BWS, buy a beer, buy a bottle of water, and go, I want that cash back.
Yeah, of course.
People say to me, why are the merchants doing this? Well, the biggest problem with you take the chemists, they're competing for loyalty. I mean, the big ones, the supermarkets, Coles, Woolies, Aldi, Harris Farm, etc. They're all competing for loyalty. So instead of putting a massive billboard up at the airport that says, "Hey, Woolworths," whatever, that costs them money. And how do you measure that? Things have got to be measurable. So instead of putting up a billboard there, give away some of the margin that they have in a cashback program, and it creates loyalty. They might pay 1%. Milk runs on there, and the milk run had in the Raiz app had a special a couple of weeks ago. It was a 10% cashback.
Right.
And milk run up and did my full grocery shop. And so we did. We usually shop once a week. We did 2 in the week because it was a week special.
Oh yeah.
And it's instead of paying a billboard for advertising, they're paying away on the margin on a guaranteed sale. So the merchants like it.
Yeah, of course.
It makes complete sense for them.
Yeah, that automatic reward program is actually, there's something there because I forget to go back into it. So if I've done it once, it will remember it.
Yeah, we do have a browser extension.
Oh yeah.
So if you download that onto your phone or to your laptop, when you go, so I can go, I'll get it on my Apple and I'll go, "Oh, it's Sam's birthday next week. He wants a pair of blue Speedos."
Oh yeah.
So I'll come in, Speedos.
It'd be scallop yellow.
But it will put the Raiz logo and the discount or the cashback that you get on all the providers. So that reminds you to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
We did it for Ugbits at Christmas time. And then whatever it came out, all the iconic.
Yeah.
You can get everything on the
iconic. Going back to it, so you got 340,000 users.
Monthly users,
Yeah, fantastic. And from what you said before, are you telling me you guys had a crypto fund before you had property?
I think it did, yeah.
Wow. It's probably one of the first Australian fintechs to do that for sure.
I think it was.
Yeah, because of the hype around crypto at the time.
Yes.
Bitcoin.
Yeah. And mate, I love the hype, and it took us a long time to get it approved and get it in there. But because we limited 5%, I think it was January 20. and everybody was posting that little rocket emoji on Twitter saying Bitcoin's going to the moon and stuff like that. And we had this guy, and I can't remember his username or handle or whatever it's called on Twitter back then, X now.
Yeah.
And it said, Raiz, why do you only allow 5% of my portfolio to go to crypto? The same bloke in May put on it, goes, thank you, Raiz. Now I know why you limited it because of it. Or something like that. And to watch that education learning, it made the hairs on the back of the neck stand.
Yeah.
Boy.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Very exciting. But I think it was before. If it wasn't before, it was very close to. No, it was before. Oh, no, it's 18. No, I can't remember. It was very close.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
What's your favourite part about Raiz?
Mate, I could sit there and say the returns, things like that, but it's not about the returns. It's about, to me, I know it sounds weird, but I've been put on this earth for something bigger and better than what I've achieved today. It's my personal mantra. Financial education.
Yeah.
You know, the reason that I got attracted to it just fortuitously, and maybe it's a sign, a mate in Newcastle's, unfortunately, his mother had passed away, and this was back in 2015, February of 2015. And he rang me and he said, oh, because I worked for Broadbank of Scotland.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how many people go, oh, you work for a bank, can you open my bank account for me? Oh, you work for a bank, you must know about markets. Yeah, sure. And he said to me, mate, I've got 15 grand, what stock should I buy? And I said, what are you talking about, mate? And he goes, stocks should be BHP, CBA, Westpac, I've never had a share, should I do it? And I'm like, no, that's not how it works. You don't put 15K into one stock. And he's a builder. Mate, diversification, etc. What are you talking about? Just tell me what stock to buy, Brendan.
Yeah.
And we hung up, and then the opportunity to kick off and sort of start up Acorns out here in Australia came up, and I went, that's the financial education, because they don't teach it in schools.
Exactly.
My son's, or same as you got young kids, 7 and 5. They're very excited when the tooth fairy comes because it's the first time they see money. Yeah. We don't see the cash and the coins and things like that we used to do. So, to me, I love the product. I love the ease. I love the automated functionality of it all. But the underlying goal for me is to get everybody financially literate, financial education.
Yeah. Okay. That's it. So I saw your about financial education. I saw your recent post. That either you posted or raised it from the business about Trump accounts.
Yeah.
And when I read, I was like, oh yeah, Trump's just, pulling, the chain, like trying to get more votes and stuff like that. But looking into it, it looked quite good what the US government was actually doing, giving $5,000 away. That has to go into this ETF, diversified account, kind of like a guarantee super thing, or they got the 401k back in there for your kids. You can't touch until they're 18. I think that was one of the rules. You can invest up to a certain amount, tax free, and then that compounds over time. But I think even if they did nothing, it would be like, I think 18 grand. It had all the calculations, very well visually explained, which is what I loved about it. What are your thoughts on what you think the Australian government needs to do to improve the financial health of our citizens?
The post was from me, not from Raiz. I've got a bit of grief from certain parties out there about, guys, this is what we should be looking at. And, mate, to be honest, I did speak to both parties, both the bigger parties prior to Trump. Before this post, so it was January last year, before the elections. And I'm like, guys, you're not hitting the right. This is core. Every government has a mandate, or should have a mandate, and I've seen it through the Asia Pacific countries, to financially include, financially literate, financial education, the masses and the people. So I went to them and said, guys, you should be giving everybody a Raiz account. Forget tearing up HEX debts and things like that. That's great, but it's costing the country, costing Australia. Give them this. It goes back to don't keep fishing. Teach a man to fish, and he can look after himself. This is why I want it to be a cradle to grave exercise. So if we can educate them here on wealth creation, and to me and to particularly to our board and our staff, wealth management or wealth creation. It's not a right; it's a privilege. And that's it. It should be a right, not a privilege. Yeah. People think it's a privilege. No, get it down to the grassroots. Get it down to every Australian. And I said to the parties, I said, how did Trump win? And this is before he did the accounts. He got out and he spoke to the middle class and the masses.
He's very good at that.
He's very good at that. And, I think it was Joe Rogan, and he's
That was the second time.
Second time,
But
yes.
even before that, when he was
Yeah.
going against Hillary Clinton,
Yeah.
his whole message was to the middle class. It's
Yeah.
like, we're going to make America great. All of that.
And our parties don't do that.
No.
No. And so, yeah, I got a bit of grief.
They tried to.
Yeah,
but
no, it's very unsuccessful. So I got a bit of direct messaging off the back of my LinkedIn saying, "Oh, Brendan, you shouldn't." So no, we should be. Let's bring it to the forefront. Let's make sure that all our generations are financial education. You know, I was fortunate enough that my dad taught me something. Now, so I built on that, and with the likes of Raiz, you know, Tom, my 7-year-old will be better financially educated than I was. So I want it to be intergenerational, and you know, the next generation coming up. You know, I'd love to get into it, and I've approached so many schools, the government's schooling programs, whatever they're called, but they all think it's just too hard. It's not too hard. There's plenty of organisations out there that are trying to do what we do and get into the schools for financial education. It's just got to be taken seriously. Yeah, and it will make a hell of a difference. You know, the whole reason we've got, I think a stat that I saw the other day was our pension scheme or superannuation scheme. It's the 5th largest in the world, but we're the 55th largest country by population. Because super does the thing that needs to do. You know, the government can't continue to pay pensions and things forever. Yeah. Or and get help, but we've got to do it ourselves. Yeah. You know why? So that's the mentality. It's a proven track record that it works. That's the reason we created Raiz Kids when my son was born. So let's put it. So I put $50 a week into Tom's account. So when he's 18, if the market does, and you know, past performance isn't an indicator of future performances. ... italics, asterisk stars. But if the market does what market should do over the 18 years of Tom's life, that'll be 120 grand. Yeah. Now, I don't have 120 grand cash. So trust me, so I'm not going to give a young 18-year-old 120 grand. No. But it's there. You know, it's doing what it should be doing in the background of life, compounding. You know, what is it, the 8th or 12th wonder of the world? It will do what it needs to do by the time he's 18. Yeah. So why can't we all do that? Yeah, exactly. I think it's such a powerful tool that you don't get exposure to unless it's talked about in your family as well. And I think, like, you know, from my own personal experiences, a lot of the financial education I had was around how your parents talk about money and around the psychology around it. If you grew up, so my dad was an entrepreneur, had his own construction business, collapsed in the 90s, right? Yeah. So we had a big house in Bondi, doing well, we had to sell it. Started renting in Maroubra, then moved down to Nowra later on. So we had a bit of a rise and fall. Dad slowly rebuilt his company again, a different one. But that whole experience around mindset and like sort of like, all right, the reason why I started running my own business is because I saw that happen, and I was like, if that could happen to my dad's company, it could happen to any company. So I've got to be able to provide for myself, my own family. I wanted to go start my own business, right? But that I don't think if I didn't have that experience as a kid, I would have approached the idea of having a company and a business and people working together. It's completely different. So we'll talk a bit more about that as well. And I think so I want to move a tangent then, but the idea of like, financial education, I didn't know about investing until later on. It was always like, put your money in the bank, get that interest, save it as well. So it's like, it's not going to do anything, you know, like and then I when I'm in my early 20s, I knew about like investing in stock market and stuff, but I didn't know what stocks to pick. Yeah. And the idea of putting in a fund wasn't accessible because it was like minimum 10 grand. It was 3-year lock up. Exactly. Yeah. So that was what was me, and so it was really refreshing when product like yours came to market. Yeah. I mean, you talk about it. Like my dad let me buy my first share. Yeah. And I still remember in the old place, in the old study, it was on the old big computer screen. And I said, I'm going to buy Foster's. He goes, why is it? Because I like big. Yeah. Okay, mate. I think I got it at $3 and had to get out of $1.08. He knew it, and that was a lesson that I... Yeah, that's a lesson. Because it was... Yeah. And you should learn those lessons, though. Like, first off, and you do go through those lessons a bit. But it is, it's your mates, and, fortunately, something like Raiz, and one of our biggest acquisition channels for customers is referrals, because they've had a good experience, they've broken down, you and I meet each other at the pub on Friday afternoon, I'm like, oh, mate, have you seen this thing? Yeah. I mean, we've had testimonials from young people saying, oh, cool, you introduced me to my girlfriend. You helped me get into it. And we're like, why? He goes, I was dropping bonds and ETFs and it made me look smart. But if a little bit rubs off on
there you
everybody,
go. Forget, get on Raiz. You're going to get along. Yeah. You might be your future partner.
it's like, cool, mate. Yeah, good idea.
That's awesome. That's really good.
Yeah.
So I on one of your first podcasts with Raiz Game podcast, you interviewed a guy called Ben Nash.
Yeah,
Mr. Nash. I met Ben probably about 8 years ago. Really good guy, very passionate guy. He gave a presentation at a group of at our business. We had like a sort of a franchise business model for recruitment back in the day, and he gave a presentation to us about, and I think he called it like the future state graph. So that's my little drawing.
Yeah.
It stuck with me, right? And I'm just gonna put that in there. And it was basically like the idea of where you're at now at any given point of your life,
Yeah.
and where you want to be in the future, and like the decisions that you make can get you there. And like it's all of these little decisions. So if you do nothing and keep going, you might stay in a single line, but that single line actually goes down because inflation goes up, cost of living goes up, everything like that. So you actually worse off.
Costly.
Yeah, so you've got to make decisions along the way. Now, whatever your decisions are, you're either going to go up or down. Could be good, bad. Quitting drinking, change your lifestyle, doing something unethical. That'll, they're bad things. You want to avoid the bad things and maximize the good things, right? And then, but over time, those things compound and change. So if you want to get to here, you've got to make the decisions here, and then they compound and change. And so that was super powerful for me. Like I just remember that was 8 years ago, super easy graph, and that's just something I wish I got shown because I'm being a very visual person, right? When I was a kid, and you can apply that to anything in life. Like it doesn't have to be investing. It could be. It could be playing sport. It could be.
That's what I say to people. What people don't realise is that small amounts consistently add up. Now I use that in the concept of Raiz, and that's why we've got $2.2 billion of funds. But what's an athlete do? It's a trainer.
Yeah.
And they get better. What do you do with your education at school? Not just financial education. You learn and you do. So why can't we do that with our money?
Yeah.
Why can't we do that? And I've had great conversations with Benny. And one thing that I remember talking to him about is the decision to not make a decision is a decision.
That is a decision. That is a decision.
No, I didn't make that decision. No. You chose not to do something. That is a decision.
Yeah.
And that decision, again, stays flat. It'll cost you. Yeah,
that's right. I think like what the thing is what most people, when you see that graph, is you see like a linear line, and it goes, or like so a linear line or an exponential line, right? And a lot of people, when you think they think it's like a straight line, but the thing about investing and anything in life, I think as well, is it's not. You might go up a little bit, then come down. You might get injured in sport, stop from playing, it might come down. You might have to take some time away because something happens to you or whatever that might be. But over time, it goes up, and like that's what that graph looks like.
Yeah.
And you've got to be able to weather those bad moments.
Make the stock market, the property market.
That's exactly
your life.
Exactly.
It will happen, and you can't focus in on the one section. You look at it as a whole thing. And one of the lessons we've learned in Raiz is that if a customer's in there for 3 months, they're in there for longer.
Yeah.
It's that first 3 months, because in any 3-month period, usually, especially over the last couple of years, there'll be a down day in the market.
Yeah.
And if they can understand the down and understand that it'll go back up, then they start.
Yeah.
It's a bit disappointing because everybody's got New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
Get fit, save
money. Yeah.
Even funny, because we asked the questions. Pre-COVID, it was get fit, save money. Everyone's got 3 New Year's resolutions now: get fit, save money, travel more.
Yeah, right. Is that what you've been picking up?
Yeah. And so we
because of COVID, they couldn't travel.
So they want to travel more. But it's unfortunate with what's happening with the market at the moment, and Donald and everything like that. It's people that did join and get excited about in January, going right, because January is always a good acquisition month for us because people do that, and we give it a go. With what's happening in the market now, there will be people freaking out.
Yeah,
it's kind of let's just stay calm. And I remember back in the day when I was answering phones, a customer would ring up and say, "Oh, he's a builder," and he said, "Oh, front page of the telly, and the boys on the side are saying that the market's down. What about me? What have I done?" I said, "Well, mate, have you opened up the app?" And he opened up the app and he put in $20 and it was $19.96. The market had moved. In a whole of market, it's a big thing, but depending on the diversification in his portfolio. So 4 cents, I'm not worried about 4 cents, mate. Okay, bye.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because they panic. They understand. So, well, now what does it mean for you? If the market comes off and you don't need the money, and I absolutely believe that. And what Raiz does is you push the withdraw button and the money's back in after the T2 settlement of the ASX. If you can afford to stay in, you don't need the money. But people do need the money. They might have an accident, do an ACL or something, and
I use my Raiz account to pay for my ACL surgery.
It's
profits as well.
So I get the principle. And so if they have to withdraw, get it. But especially when COVID, I read stories. I've spoken to people that panicked and sold and took. Once you crystallise that loss, it's not cool. If you can write it out, write it out.
Yeah. We were talking about that, and my brother took. I had 30 grand my rates at the time. That's right, and my brother took it out, and he's like, "I'm taking it out. Mike's going to tank, or it's tanking at the moment." All right, cool. I just forgot. And then I went to have a look and take some out, but then I had the T2. I was like, oh, just leave it in there. I don't need the money. And then after about a couple of months, forgot about it, started going up again, market returns. And then since then, I think it's been up since I started, I think I've done 30% increase. Yeah. Just you can see the performance of the time.
Yeah, all time.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. What do you think the number one thing is that holds people back from improving their financial health or education?
I still think there's a cohort out there or a generational thing out there that think it's too hard.
Yeah.
They go, oh, I don't know where to start, and they panic. And like everything, I'll do it later. I still haven't painted the back fence. I should have got in and done it, but I'll do it later. People don't. Yes, I think there's a stat about 78% of people say they'll do it, but don't come back and finish the application or whatever. It is, you just got to give it a go, and that's what we want to do. We want to break down the barriers and say, put your $5 in, because that's our minimum investment, and see how it goes. We've got a campaign, we've got a messaging system that says, hey, so you're putting $5. You're on the $5.50 a month plan. You're not using it, mate. We suggest you close your account. And it's sorry.
Well, you're losing 50 cents, though.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like that. That's not cool. So if you're not using the functionality, close your account. But it is just got to give it a go.
Yeah. So is it a mindset then, or is it a behaviour?
I think it's a combination of both.
Right.
I think the older generation, and we've seen, I've spoken to a lot of people out on the road, and they say, oh, I spoke to my granddad, my dad, my accountant, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, my uncle, my auntie about Raiz Super, and they said just go with Host Plus, go with Rest, because that's the mindset that they're all used to. Those big industry funds. It's like, oh no, they don't know about Raiz, so that generational knowledge or passing down is different. They're happy. Like, you wouldn't tell your dad that you're putting $5 into Raiz, but you might go and speak to your dad, your uncle, your auntie if you're rolling over a $25,000 super account. What do you think of Raiz Super? So again, bigger the amount, bigger the conversation, the hesitation, whatever. So my goal is just get everybody on that $5 to understand it, build the confidence, build your knowledge, and then you go.
So you make
So I think it's a mindset and a behavioural thing.
And so you've done a lot around reducing that friction to open up those doors to make those a lot easier. Okay. I think we're talking about going back, and you brought up Raiz Kids, and I think about my own financial education, I guess, what I learned at school, right? And the way compound interest was explained to me back then was pretty was kind of cool. It was like it compounds over time. So every year it's compounded not just on the principal but the total amount. And I got that in my head. But I think the way, and things have probably changed a lot then. I hope they have anyway. But it wasn't explained in terms of like a visual thing. And I know you were talking about your kids, how you were doing $50 a week. Good on you for being able to do that. I can't do that much. I do $30 a month for both my kids, right?
Yeah, perfect.
Which is
$1 a day.
Yeah, exactly. It's $1 a day. It's $1 a day.
Like a hell of a difference.
It's $1 a day, right? Yeah. So both of them are sitting about 1,000 something at the moment. But at the time when they're 18, it's going to be $18,999. But the interest, and I just did this little graph, is like compound interest on that. But the interest is going to make up like 60% of that. So it's just like the hard lifting, the heavy work. And I think that just the simple visual graph of what compound interest works is like, it's the time of doing the repetitive behavior that makes the biggest difference. Yeah,
absolutely. I was speaking to a young fella last weekend at the beach, actually. And the banks do very well, or education does very well on mortgages. If you pay it back on a monthly basis and you pay it back on a weekly basis, you'll shave 3 years off your mortgage or something like that. Well, that works for investing as well. I like the dollar a day, whatever, because you're getting your compound on today, on tomorrow's money, not here. And the whole mentality about saving and investing years ago was whatever you've got left over at the end of the month, invest.
Yeah.
Or Raiz and their automated recurring, the roundups functionality is doing it as you go along.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of that financial books that I read, I think it's like the Richest Men in Babylon and something. It's like the idea of paying yourself first.
Yes.
As soon as that money hits, you can do that. Yeah.
And that's one of the other mindset to our previous conversation. Individuals have an issue with, if it's come out of my bank account, it's an expense.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and this is what our research has shown us. But don't forget that $10 is an investment.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they think when it's there, their mentality is, it's out of my bank account, it's an expense, it's gone. No, it's an investment over here. And we make it very easy to withdraw because life happens and you need to borrow. I mean, just on the kids one, Tom and I were.
Is that your son?
Tom, he goes, I'm getting him invested in, and because he was born before Izzy, he's 7 and Izzy's 5.
Yeah.
So he's got a bigger balance, and it was Christmas time, and I was naughty. I borrowed some money out of his kids' account to pay the Tyler.
To pay what?
To pay the Tyler.
Oh, right.
We had
any cash.
Yeah, cash. And I'm like, do I sell shares over here or no? I'll just borrow it out of Tom for us. I feel bad. And he just happened to say, "Oh, can you show me my Raiz balance?"
At the same time.
And I didn't think of anything, so I've logged in. I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "That was $8,000 last week. Now it's $6,000." And I'm like, "That's market movement, mate." Flat.
Listen, there's
That's market movement. But he's like, "What?" I just want to see. So I pay at the end of the month.
30% of your money's account.
Market movement, mate. And I bolted. I put it back at. It was December. Put it back on December page. I completely forgot. I mean, and just the honesty on his face was like, but it was. I think quick. Market movement, mate. Is it working for you? I'm still laughing at it.
That's that's so good. The next question is what do you think? What are the 3 most important things that you're teaching your children about financial education?
Let's just say that my young fella's in year 3. I had some year 3 maths homework the other day, and I think he was teaching me.
Yeah.
The long divisions
and the
ones that
it's hard to make a long division, isn't it? Yeah. And there's why that one by first?
There was 3 different. Like there was 800.
Do they still do the same way you do like that L, like the sideways L, and you do it in
well, I don't. It's on a worksheet. No, I have to use Claude to. It's kind of, I could do it in my head.
Yeah.
But I'm an account. But you had to show the workings of the 3 strategies learned. That was the question. I'm like, what are the 3 strategies, mate?
Yeah.
So he tried to explain it to us, and I've thrown it into Claude to get an answer, and then I had to explain to him the 3 strategies verbally, and then we worked through them. So I think he's teaching.
Thank you, Claude.
Yeah, he's teaching me a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's what I like about it, teaching, especially 5%, it's brilliant. If these tools were available when I was that age, I'd be in a different state today.
Yeah, sure.
But it's the value of money.
Okay.
Because they see it on the tap and go car, they don't see the cash.
And I'm sure the physical things, even myself has lost the value of money. I think a lot of us, everyone has.
Yeah, and to get them, and it sounds basic, but get them to do their chores, and they get $1. And then if you don't get your chores, you don't get $1, and so Tom will get $1 an easy way, or vice versa. But then, so that's it. And then you go to the store, we go to Kmart, and Izzy wants it. I say, you can take it out of your pocket money. And then when we get home, I'm like, oh, let's see who's got the most money. And Izzy's got this little squishy thing. Tom's got more money. And you could see the look on her face to go, I had to do all that hard work to buy this. Tom's got more money. Is it worth it?
Yeah.
Is it worth it?
Yep.
And that's what I'm trying to teach them to go, you work hard for your money. Is what you're spending it on. And these bloody roadblocks and blocks or whatever that's just wasted money.
Sure.
It drives me nuts. And I obviously got a lot of mates with kids, and they're like, Sam wanted another $20 on his roadblocks. I'm like, no. I want to teach, and Belinda and I are very good at it, teaching them the value of money.
Yeah.
You've learned how to get it. Is it really worth what you want to do?
Yeah.
I hate Clara jumped in.
Are you doing it with the physical? So like I'm begins with 3 jars.
Yep.
So like say give and spend, just so they can see money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we use physical dollars. Yeah. We got caught out the other night because the tooth fairy had to come.
Oh, yeah, mate.
We got coins.
It happened all the time. Like when my son's too, I learned the first time, I was not gonna fall out. Fell out. I was like, where am I gonna get money from? Yeah. And then it's just like, I got to go to get to ATM, or I can't get like cash out on the dollar, so I gotta go get $20.
Yeah, then you gotta break it.
Then I gotta go buy something to break it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's I think the first one we did, we had a $5 note.
What are you giving your kids? What's the 2 food?
I think, Boone and I have been, just to be honest, I think it was 20 cents when I was thinking of 50 cents, and talking about inflation and CPI since my day.
Tooth fairy inflation.
So we got caught out, and I think the very first one for Tom was a tenner.
No.
We had no coins.
Yeah.
So then we had to scale it back, so it's a gold coin now.
Oh man. So I was like, I'm gonna give him $1, and Steph's like, you gotta give him 2. Come on. And the kids are getting 5 these days. And then I go to soccer one day, and I was talking. This conversation came out with the parents, and he goes, the other day, my son lost his tooth, and we're at my uncle's house. We didn't have any money, so my uncle gave out 100. 100. He said,
I tell you what, the government's
what
got to do something to get that inflation.
Well, I was like, no, there's no. What the hell?
They could have a chat.
Was it the big one? Was it the big tooth? You know, like listen, a molar, like you go, alright, you're a molar.
Like, bro, you'd be expecting to lose all of his teeth.
Yeah. Oh, good. Speaking of Raiz Kids, what are the tax implications around that? Like, how does that sort of work?
No, so look, it's at the end of the day, it's my account. So I've got my Raiz account. I'm a perfect user because I've got multiple things. I've got Brendan's got an account. Brendan's got a couple of jars set up for his US holiday, for school fees and whatever. But then I have a Thomas account and an Isabel account. So each one of those jars and portfolios can be in jars and kids accounts can be in different underlying investment portfolios. So I'm in a plus. I think Tom chose Sapphire because he understands what Bitcoin is and got excited about that. But Isabel chose the Emerald socially responsible portfolio.
Oh, wow.
I won't say because it's socially responsible, because it's got an emerald as a symbol and it's nice, pretty and green.
Oh, right. Okay,
so she chose that. So you get those underlying ones, but at the end of the day, they roll up to Brendan. Yeah. So at the end of if you deposit $10 into any one of those, you'll get a contract note at the end of the day to say your $10 was split up to year.
So you still pay the tax on the different.
So at the end of the year, I get a tax statement, compliant tax statement that says you've received frank dividends to this. It's a combination of a portfolio. So when Tom turns, so you set up an account, you put in Tom 9th of April, and when it gets to 18, I'll get a message because it's under my email. Hey, look, Tom 18, would you like to convert this to his account?
Yeah, fair enough. All right, cool. All right, mate. I think that's a good spot to end it on. I think we should end it on Tooth Fairy actually. So I can't.